NASA found something buried under the Sinai Desert that nobody was supposed to find. And it matches the Exodus itinerary almost exactly. Station by station, in the sequence numbers 33 records them, satellite radar that penetrates sand has revealed ancient road systems buried under thousands of years of sand, invisible to ground survey, invisible to aerial photography, invisible to every tool archaeologists had available before the space age. By the end of this video, your picture of the Exodus is going to shift from a story set in a vague, featureless wilderness into something you can trace on a map with your finger. The Exodus route is not lost. It was just underground. The most significant match in the entire data set is not the one the researchers expected. When I tell you what it is, you will understand why this evidence has been so hard for both sides of this debate to know what to do with. Here is your foundation. Numbers 33 is one of the most overlooked chapters in the entire Bible. Most readers skip it. Critics dismiss it as invented geography, but for archaeologists and historical geographers, the chapter is something unusual. A travel itinerary with 40 named stations, described in sequence, with enough specific detail at certain stops to function as a testable geographic claim. Elim, for example, is not described vaguely. The text specifies 12 springs and 70 palm trees. That is precise enough that if the site exists, you should be able to find it. And if it does not match, you should be able to rule it out. The problem for centuries was that most of these stations were unidentifiable. The names did not correspond to any known ancient site. The landscape had swallowed them. Landsat imaging changed the game. Synthetic aperture radar, the technology behind the relevant satellite surveys, does not photograph the surface. It penetrates it. It sends microwave energy into the ground, and it reads what bounces back from subsurface features. Ancient roads, buried under sand that accumulated over millennia, show up as distinct, linear signatures. Because the compacted soil of a frequently traveled route has a different density and moisture profile than the surrounding substrate. You are not looking at the surface of the Sinai when you look at this data. You are looking through it. And what the radar found is a network of ancient caravan routes crisscrossing the peninsula that no ground expedition had ever mapped because they were never visible from the ground. Now here is where your attention needs to sharpen, because this is the part that changes the nature of the entire conversation around Exodus geography. The traditional route, the one shown on most Bible maps, the northern coastal road running along the Mediterranean, has a significant problem. The book of Numbers, chapter 33, explicitly says that God led Israel away from that road, described as the way of the land of the Philistines, because it was too direct and too exposed. The text describes a route that deliberately avoided the obvious path. The satellite data shows exactly that kind of deliberate route, a system of roads running south and east, away from the coast, through the interior of the Sinai, consistent with a large population moving with animals and equipment and avoiding the Egyptian military corridor. The archaeology of the northern coastal road shows continuous Egyptian military presence throughout the relevant period. You would not take a former slave population down that road. The route the satellite data reveals is the route the text predicts. Here's what I want you to drop in the comments right now before we go further. Which of the 40 stations in Numbers 33 are you most curious about? The matches are not uniform. Some are stronger than others. And I want to know which location you would most want me to dig into in a dedicated episode. Now, your value apex. The detail I want you to write down and send to someone today, because this is the number that reframes the entire debate. The research team working from Landsat data has provisionally matched 28 of the 40 stations named in Numbers 33 to specific geographic features visible in the satellite record. 28 out of 40. The 12 remaining stations fall in areas where the satellite coverage is incomplete, or where surface disruption from modern development has degraded the subsurface signal. They have not been ruled out. They have not been imaged adequately. The 28 matches include Elim, the site with 12 springs and 70 palm trees, where the radar signature corresponds to an ancient oasis location whose surface expression includes geological features consistent with a high water table and historical palm cultivation. The description in numbers is not poetic, it is a field note. The field note matches the landscape. But here is a layer underneath the match that almost nobody is talking about. The ancient road network revealed by the satellite was not used exclusively during the period of the Exodus. These routes were used for centuries by multiple populations, for trade, migration, and military movement. The existence of the roads does not prove the Exodus. What it proves is that the geography numbers 33 describes as real, navigable terrain with actual waypoints that populations used for real journeys. The text is not describing an imaginary wilderness. It describes a landscape that satellite archaeology has now confirmed was traversed, marked, and remembered. Your second question for the comments is, does archaeological confirmation of the route's physical geography change how you read the Exodus narrative? Or do you need more than geography to find it historically credible? There is one more element to this that mainstream coverage almost always omits. The satellite surveys are not finished. The research program that has produced these 28 provisional matches is ongoing. The areas of incomplete coverage, the 12 unmatched stations, are on the list for future imaging passes. We are watching this in real time. This is not a closed case with a final verdict. It is an active investigation with new data arriving on a timeline measured in months, not decades. The methodology is established. The technology is proven. The question of whether the remaining 12 stations resolve into matches, become ruled out, or remain genuinely ambiguous does not have an answer yet. And that is exactly why your subscription to this channel matters right now and not later. When the next data set publishes, when the next provisional match is confirmed or challenged, this channel is going to cover it within 48 hours of the paper dropping. Not a summary of a summary. Primary source, full analysis, and the raw implication of what the data actually says. Subscribe now, hit the bell. This story is not finished, and the next chapter could land any week. Third question, and I want your most honest answer in the comments. If the satellite program eventually matches all 40 stations to specific geographic features, does that settle the historical question of the Exodus for you? Or is geography alone not sufficient? There is no wrong answer. The comment section on this channel is one of the most rigorous conversations happening in this space, and I read every one. And share this video with one person, a skeptic, a believer, a history teacher, anyone who has ever looked at a Bible map and wondered if any of it was real. The satellite data does not require a faith position. It requires a map. The map is being drawn right now from orbit, 400 miles above the Sinai Desert. The route was always there. We just needed to learn how to look for it.